I think if there's one thing I would say is just that we touched on the approach of training young athletes and moving everyone who has a son or daughter that loves sport and is aspiring to be at the collegiate level. They want to give them the greatest opportunity possible. And I understand that. But I had an opportunity to speak to a group of parents last week. And I asked them a simple question. And the question was, are the masses getting scholarships? And almost every head in the room is doing this. Nope, they aren't. So my follow-up question is, then why are you following the masses? So for anyone who's listening to this right now, like, listen, sometimes the truth hurts, but I'm a coach, so my job is to share the truth and challenge people to think. The question becomes, is playing 12 months a year of soccer or basketball or baseball or softball, is that really the best way to go? The best people in the world, the best strength coaches, the best performance coaches, the best physical therapists, doctors, neurobiologists, everybody says, no, it's not. A lot of people don't know this. A couple years ago, well, actually, it's more than a couple. It's probably 10 or 12 years ago. USA Soccer put out a statement on their website pleading with parents to take 2 4-week blocks a year completely off of soccer and train, lift, do speed work, or just recover if need be. And I'm hoping that some parents listen to this and take it to heart. More is not better. Better is better. It's not about how many hours you shoot a basketball. It's not about how many kicks you do of a soccer ball. It's how well you do the ones that you do. And when you look at most high school athletes, most of them are nutritionally compromised in some way. Either they're not getting enough essential fats in, or not getting enough protein in. And for most of the girls that are playing year-round high school sports, they are nutritionally and real generally speaking, calorically deprived, or insufficient levels of macros all the time. So the more you do, the more she does, the more he does, the less able they are to recover from the things they really need to recover from. So my hope is that this challenges some parents to think about, my daughter plays soccer. 52% of ACL tears amongst women happen in soccer. Has your daughter been screened, and is she doing ACL prevention? If she's not, you got to ask yourself why, because every doctor on the planet is pleading with parents to do that. So I'm going to plead with them too. Please open up your paradigm and realize that if your daughter isn't fast enough, the next 1,000 hours of soccer isn't going to be the key to her getting faster. It's going to be an integrated approach where she's improving, in a lot of cases, ankle mobility. She's improving core strength the right way, and she's developing the lower body strength she needs to move her body across the pitch. It's not about more hours of the sport.
Yeah, and females, they have I believe the term is the higher Q angle.
Yeah,
and their
absolutely.
hips go in, so their ACLs are kind of already at a disadvantage when it comes to potentially being torn or injured. So yeah, 100%, Rob. Rob, there, one thing that I've noticed with a lot of athletes, especially in this area, Central PA, is the in-season program. There's a lack of an in-season program at a lot of schools. Not every school, but there's a lack of an in-season program. What do you think is the best approach to that, an in-season program? Because you know how important that is. Like lifting is what I mean. Lifting is what I'm talking about.
So Mark, when you say best approach, are you talking about like if I'm my best approach if I'm a sport coach, or my best approach if I'm a parent, or do you
I
have,
would
do you have a
say as a
specific
coach,
thought in mind?
like a head coach of a football team. What's the best approach
All right.
to an in-season lifting program?
So the way I would do it, if I were probably any sport, but if I'm a sport coach, first of all, you have to prioritize it. So it's that old saying, if you don't schedule it, it's probably not going to get done. So here's one of the things I hear so often, and it's just it's an indication of really poor planning on a coach's part. We get done 15 minutes early. All right, guys, let's go in the weight room and lift. No plan, no purpose. Let's just go in and do whatever.
Yeah.
Um, every team in season, I think, should do 2 sessions a week. One probably being a little bit higher volume. So to make it really simple, if some extra sets, and the second session just being a faster approach to stimulating the nervous system. And one of the things that's a huge, huge weapon in a coach's arsenal, and a lot of coaches just aren't aware of it, or they don't incorporate it, is your warm up, or what we now term as activation. If your warm up is specific to what you need, you can use your warm up as a training tool. So if I'm a basketball coach for a girls basketball team at the high school level, we can do 3 or 4 specific drills within the activation period of the warm up period every day that's going to reduce those girls' chances of tearing an ACL. Or I can do it the way I've always done it. And that is a big pet peeve of mine. So much of what coaches do is dictated by tradition. I do it this way because my coach did it with me 20 years ago. Well, there's been a lot of science that has happened in that 20-year period, or the last 30-year period, and there's better ways to do things. And there are people out there that can help you through that process. It doesn't take a lot of money, and it doesn't take a lot of effort for a high school coach to get some really valuable information.
Yeah. Why do you think programs just say, hey, 15 minutes for early for practice, we're just going to go in and throw you in the weight room. You guys going to go in and probably spend half the time texting your girlfriend. Why do you think most programs do that? I mean, is it, I guess, lack of knowledge, or is it they just don't think it's that important? I mean, to me, it's like it's an epidemic. Um, like Texas high school football, that's 365. You know what I mean? You would never ever hear of a program not lifting in season. So why do you think it is that they don't take it seriously as they should?
Um,
I
I
guess
think
you
it's
kind of already answered it,
multifaceted.
but
Well, it's in part it's not getting informed. I'll tell you a quick story. This is like multiple coaches ago. One of the local high schools, um, they had a new head coach, young guy, and I used to be the president of the Central PA chapter of the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame, and we held this mixer, and we invited all the local coaches, and this guy was there. He had just gotten the job, and he comes up to me, he goes, are you Rob Oshinsky? I said, yeah. I said, how do you know? He said, well, he said, honestly, after I've gotten the job, the first 5 people I talked to said the first person I need to talk to is you. And I said, well, why? He said, well, these people all said if I'm going to develop young athletes, like, I should pick your brain. So is that possible? So we got together a couple times for coffee, and we talked, and he genuinely wanted to know. He had great questions. And we talked about the science. We talked about why certain things that fall under that tradition umbrella just aren't the best way to do things. And he just said to me the second time we met, he's just like head in his hands, and he's like, I just can't believe how much I don't know. I can't believe how far behind the times I am. And I just posted this on social media a week or two ago. I haven't prescribed a sit-up in 25 years. So if sit-ups are still part of your core routine, understand that at the elite levels, and I am far from the only one. There's friends of mine like Lee Taft and other guys I know that are great performance coaches. They would tell you the same thing. They haven't prescribed a sit up in 25 years. They don't train abs because there's way over 30 muscles that comprise the core. It's not just your rectus abdominis. So I think it comes down to priorities. It's like you. Like, I know how serious you take your fitness. Well, that process includes decisions like, I'm going to rehydrate first thing in the morning. I'm going to get X number of grams of protein every day. I've got to get X amount of complex carbs every day. They're decisions. So as a sport coach, if you don't decide that strength training is going to be an integral part of your in-season program, it's not going to be.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's another thing that we get into is hydration and the total lack of that. Just in general, lack of nutrition. I remember some of the pregame meals we had for football, and I'm like looking back on it now, I'm like, man, I can't believe we ate that before a game. That gave us like no advantage whatsoever. Um, but I took your bodybuilding class, Rob, and I still have the notes from it, and I look at them pretty much every day. You know, the hydration. I take 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day because of the class I took with you. The honey for pre-workout, the healthy fats. I got healthy fats after, because you and I were talking about some of the athletes you worked with, and their main thing that they were missing was healthy fats. So I started getting that. Macadamia nut oil. There was a lot from that class that I learned from you, that I still implement now. So there's a lot of it. There's a lot of factors, like you said, the lack of knowledge, I think, for a lot of them. And yeah, I'd have to, yeah, that must be what it is the lack of knowledge, the lack of knowing how important it is to have a lifting program in general, let alone in season and stuff like that. Rob, I wanted to ask you one last question. It's kind of a funny question, but if there's nothing else that you want to cover, we can jump into my last question here. I know you're a busy guy, so I don't want to hold you too long. And hopefully I'll have you on again. I would like to have you on again. We could talk more about this stuff. I mean, it could be a series as far as I'm concerned on here. But Rob, who is the who is the most famous person you've worked with? Like athlete wise, who is the most famous athlete you've worked with?
That would be a tie. Jamie Bestwick, 14-time X Games champion, and Chris Edwards. Chris is, I think, a 5 or 6-time X Games champion and was a uh, top three placer. I don't know how many times. Both guys are arguably. Chris is arguably the best inline skater of all time, and Jamie is arguably the best vert ramp rider of all time. So those guys probably by far.
And they were at Woodward, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Woodward
Okay.
was a big part of my early career. It was just a blessing to be part of that community. Thanks to Gary Ream and Ed Isabel. They and this is, there's a lesson in this when you talk about parents and developing kids. Gary and Ed came to me with an open mind. I was actually training some of Gary's kids at the time. They were really good high school athletes, and they came to me and they said, "Listen, these guys get hurt all the time, and by the nature of the sport, the most of the guys that ride bikes and skateboards and inline skate, like, they're kind of counterculture. They don't want to do things the way other athletes do. And I
Yep.
thought that was actually really cool as I got to know these guys. But when Ed and Gary came to me, they were like, listen, these guys don't want to do the traditional. They don't want to do bench, squat, deadlift. And we know you train athletes in a different manner, and we think there's going to be a great fit. So, they spent the money, they put in a good weight room at Woodward, and I was there 4 or 5 days a week every summer. And these guys bought in, and it was a great experience.
That's cool. Yeah. I forget about Woodward because it is out in the Penns Valley area as far as I remember, and it's way out there. I mean, it's the camp is pretty far from even State College, really. But that's one of the biggest camps in the country. Um,
Yeah, when we were training there, it was the world mecca for exports.
wow.
I mean, from Tony Hawk to Travis Pastrana to Dave Mira. I mean, the icons of the first big generation, so to speak, of X Games champions. Everybody was there. It was it was a really cool vibe. And you'd have big sponsors like Adidas and ESPN and other entities that were in camp all the time, because it
Yeah.
was it was at the infancy stages where those sports were just absolutely exploding. And what a lot of people don't realize is how amazing these athletes are. I mean, Jamie said to me, "Listen, you got to come and watch a session. You got to see me ride." And when I showed up, that vert ramp is 14 feet high, and Jamie's literally 18 feet above the lip of the ramp, above the coping. There's an immediate awareness to these guys are amazing athletes.
Yeah.
Don't downplay their athleticism because they wear baggy shorts or because they don't play with a ball. Like, these guys are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Rob, and I think there's some sports that don't get the respect that they deserve because it doesn't involve a ball or it's not on TV or I just talked about gymnastics the other day. I used to live with the gymnast at Penn State. That's one of the hardest sports, in my opinion, that there is. The dedication it takes, the life that they live. I mean, they are totally immersed in that sport. So and I used to know some swimmers too, and they say, "Oh, those football workouts are so easy compared to ours," So they always have that spat back and forth. But Rob, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Mark, you're welcome. It was great.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you. Definitely want to have you on again, and you and I can talk about topics and subjects, whatever you would want to talk about. But more than anything, I just want to get your story. You have a great gym. I really enjoy your gym. It's one of the best. I've been to gyms all over the country. Your gym is one of the best that I've been to. So thank you for
Thanks, Mark.
providing
That
that.
means a
And
lot.
yeah, Rob, and I've been all over the country, and your gym is one of the best. And thank you for providing that to the local community and not just saying like, "Hey, we're just gonna have athletes in here." Thank you for letting me bodybuilder in, guys like that. So uh, is there anything you want to plug before you jump off?
Oh boy, I don't know.
I know
Sometimes
you're busy, Rob.
I'm not the best self promoter.
I don't know how many more
Um,
athletes you can take on right now, but
well, we just expand our staff, so we could take
all
on a
right,
few.
cool.
I would just encourage people to question tradition. Go out and talk to people. And for those who are working directly with athletes, or if they're athletes themselves, realize that the long-term key to success is being consistent. It's not about working your tail off for 2 or 3 weeks and then taking a break. It's about grinding all the time and keeping your eyes on the goal. And really, that includes the adult athlete. One of the biggest, well, a future direction for victory is really longevity training, because there are more and more men and women over the age of 40 that want to live an exceptional level of fitness. And there are specific ways to get there. And it starts with being empowered with the right information, because there's a lot of really poor information out there. So if I could leave your audience with this: don't rely on TikTok. and stuff like that for your information. There is some good stuff out there. There's some amazing stuff on YouTube if you know who to follow, but there's a lot of really poor information. And one of my biggest soapboxes is just abdominal training or core training. You don't get an amazing six pack by doing hundreds of crunches and sit-ups. I ask people all the time, listen, if I have big fat arms, would you tell me to go to the gym and do a couple hundred curls every day to make my arms smaller? And everybody says, no way. I said, and I'll say, well, then why are you doing that for your core? It's the same thing. Fat's a systemic energy source. So, get informed with great information, follow the right people, and your fitness and your athlete's performance will reap the benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you pretty much said it, Rob. It comes down to just the dedication of just being consistent and the discipline to get it done. And that's very important. But yeah, if you guys listening, you want to learn, you want some knowledge, Rob's a great source, and Rob's always very open to speaking. As busy as you are, Rob, anytime we've talked, I've gotten a lot of good information from you. So I would say check out your website, Rob, the Victory Sports website. You guys have a lot of
victorynation.com.
Yeah.
And if there's anyone listening who actually manages or leads teams of trainers or coaches, I have a second business called the Winner Circle. Eric Mitchell, who would be a great guest on your podcast. Eric and I are really close friends with a very parallel professional path in terms of what has got us to where we are. And we come on site and work with teams. We've worked with T3 Sports, which is arguably the #1 sports performance program in the country and out in suburban Cleveland. We've worked with a number of other big health clubs, so we can help.
Yeah, Rob, we'll talk more for sure via text or in person about if there's anybody else that would want to come on here and talk. Absolutely, especially with you. But Rob, again, thanks for coming on. You guys have seminars. I went to the bodybuilding seminar. I believe you've had several seminars, people speaking. They can find it on your website, right? If they want to come listen to that.
Yeah, we have nothing planned at the moment. Social media is probably a little better way to go. So we're on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, they can always call in and ask, and we're able to come on site. So myself and a couple of our other coaches are able to come on site, do school in services, or in fact, I spoke a couple times this past year, your alma mater, came into Bald Eagle area and spoke to the students there a couple times.